My name is Sarah. I'm 30 years old, and this is the story of how the place I called my spiritual home became the scene of the most devastating betrayal of my life. Before we begin, I need you to stay until the very end because what happened in those final moments changed not just my life, but exposed a truth that nobody wants to talk about. If you've ever felt like you didn't belong somewhere, if you've ever been judged for who you love, or if you simply believe in doing what's right, hit that subscribe button right now because this story needs to be heard. It started on a Sunday morning in March. I remember the exact date because it was the day after I posted a photo with my girlfriend Emma on social media. Just a simple picture of us at dinner, holding hands, smiling. Nothing inappropriate, nothing scandalous, just two people in love. I had been attending Grace Community Church since I was 18 years old. I sang in the choir, I volunteered at every bake sale, I helped organize the youth group activities. That church wasn't just a building to me, it was my family. That morning, I walked through those familiar doors like I had done hundreds of times before. The spring air was fresh. The sun was shining through the stained glass windows, creating those beautiful colored patterns on the wooden pews. And I could hear the organ playing softly in the background. Everything seemed normal, but the moment I stepped inside, I felt it. Eyes on me, whispers, people turning away. Pastor Michael, who had known me for over a decade, who had counseled me through my darkest moments, who had baptized me in that very church, walked past me without a single word. Not a hello, not a nod, nothing. Just complete silence. My heart started racing. Did I do something wrong? Was there some church event I forgot about? But then I saw Margaret, the woman who had been like a grandmother to me, literally turn her back when I tried to approach her. And here's where it gets worse. I sat down in my usual spot, third pew from the front on the right side. I had sat there every single Sunday for 12 years. The family that usually sat next to me, the Hendersons, gathered their things and moved to a different section. They didn't say why. They didn't have to. I sat there alone, surrounded by empty space, while the church filled up around me. It was like I had become invisible, or worse, like I was contaminated. The service started, and Pastor Michael began his sermon. Want to know what the topic was? Love thy neighbor. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. He talked about acceptance, about compassion, about being the hands and feet of Jesus in this world. And the entire time I sat there in that isolated pew, tears streaming down my face, while everyone pretended I didn't exist. But nobody said anything. Nobody did anything. That's what kills me the most. It wasn't violent, it wasn't loud, it was just cold, calculated silence. The kind of rejection that doesn't leave bruises you can see, but cuts deeper than any words ever could. After the service ended, I tried one more time. I approached Pastor Michael in the lobby. I said his name. He looked at me with eyes that had once been so warm and kind, and he said 4 words that I will never forget. You know why, Sarah? That was it. 12 years of devotion, 12 years of service, 12 years of believing I was part of something bigger than myself, reduced to 4 words and a closed door. I want you to pause for a second and think about this. Is this what faith is supposed to look like? Is this what love is supposed to feel like? Drop your answer in the comments because I need to know what you think. Would you have done the same thing they did? Or would you have stood up and said something? I walked out of that church and I never went back. But the story doesn't end there because what happened next revealed something even more disturbing. Over the following weeks, I started receiving messages. Not from the church members apologizing, but from other people. Young people, teenagers, adults in their 20s and 30s, all telling me the same thing. This happened to me too. They did this to my brother. My daughter stopped believing in God after they rejected her. I realized I wasn't alone. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern, a systematic removal of anyone who didn't fit their definition of acceptable. And the most heartbreaking part, Most of these people suffered in silence. They never told their stories. They just disappeared, convinced that they were the problem, that they were broken, that they were unworthy of love. So I made a decision. I say to speak up. I started sharing my experience online, and the response was overwhelming. Thousands of people reached out with their own stories of rejection, of being cast out by communities they trusted, of having their faith weaponized against them. But here's what shocked me. For every message of support, there were messages of hate. People telling me I deserved it, that I was going to hell, that I should have kept my personal life private. And you know what? I want to hear from those people too. If you think what that church did was right, if you believe that love should come with conditions, if you think that someone's sexuality should determine whether they deserve compassion, leave a comment and tell me why. I'm serious. I want to understand your perspective because maybe, just maybe, we can have a real conversation about this. But let me tell you something that nobody expected. 3 months after I left that church, I received a phone call. It was from Emily, a 17-year-old girl who attended Grace Community Church with her family. She told me that after seeing what happened to me, she realized she couldn't hide who she was anymore. She came out to her parents, and they kicked her out of the house. She had nowhere to go. She was scared, alone, and contemplating ending her life. I drove to meet her that night. We sat in my car for 3 hours, and she cried. She told me that watching me walk out of that church with my head held high gave her the courage to be honest about who she was, that she didn't expect the consequences would be so severe. And in that moment, I realized something crucial. My story wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every person who has ever been made to feel less than every person who has been told that who they love makes them unworthy, every person who has been silenced by the very institutions that claim to offer salvation. So what did I do? I helped Emily find a safe place to stay. I connected her with resources, with support groups, with people who actually practice what they preach about love and acceptance. And slowly, she started to heal. But here's the question that keeps me up at night. How many other Emilys are out there? How many people are suffering in silence because they're terrified of being rejected by the people they love? If this story is resonating with you, if you've been through something similar, or if you simply believe that this isn't okay, smash that like button right now and make sure you're resubscribed because I'm not done telling these stories. There are more voices that need to be heard, more truths that need to be exposed, and I need your help to make sure they reach the people who need to hear them most. Now, here's where things get really complicated, and this is where I need your honest opinion. A few months ago, Pastor Michael reached out to me. He asked if we could meet for coffee. I didn't want to go. Every fiber of my being told me to ignore that message, to protect myself from more pain, but something made me say yes. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was hope, maybe it was just exhaustion from carrying all this anger. We met at a small cafe downtown. He looked older, tired. He sat down across from me and said, "Sarah, I'm sorry." But then he added, "But you have to understand, I have a congregation to think about. I have families who have been attending that church for generations. I couldn't risk dividing the community." He actually said that. He apologized and then immediately justified his actions in the same breath. I looked at him and I asked, "So my pain, my humanity, my 12 years of dedication meant less than your fear of making other people uncomfortable?" He didn't have an answer for that. He just sat there, and for the first time, I saw shame in his eyes. But was it enough? Is an apology that comes with excuses really an apology at all? Tell me in the comments, would you forgive him? Do people like Pastor Michael deserve a second chance? Or are some betrayals simply unforgivable? Here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. Institutions do and change until the cost of staying the same becomes too high. Grace Community Church didn't reach out to me because they suddenly had a moral awakening. They reached out because people started leaving. Young families, progressive members, even some longtime attendees began questioning whether they wanted to be part of a community that treated people the way they treated me. Money stopped coming in. The church started to feel the consequences of their actions, and isn't that sad? That it took financial impact for them to even consider that maybe, just maybe, they were wrong. That's not repentance, that's damage control. But here's where I need you to really think critically. Is it better to have institutions change for the wrong reasons than not change at all? If a church starts accepting LGBTQ members because they re-lose in congregation rather than because they genuinely believe it as the right thing to do, does that still count as progress? I don't have all the answers. I'm still processing my own feelings about what happened. Some days I'm angry, some days I'm sad, and some days I actually feel grateful because this experience forced me to examine what I truly believe about faith, community, and love. It stripped away the comfortable illusions I had been living with and forced me to confront reality. But here's what I know for certain. My relationship with Emma is stronger than ever. We've been together for 3 years now, and she has shown me what unconditional love actually looks like. Not the conditional, performance-based acceptance I experienced at that church, but real, messy, complicated, beautiful love that doesn't come with a list of requirements. And honestly, I found more authentic spirituality in her arms, in our quiet moments together, in the life we're building, than I ever found in those church pews. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave you? Because here's the thing. This isn't just my story. This is happening everywhere, in churches and families and communities all around the world. People are being rejected, cast out, silenced, simply for being who they are. And the question we all have to answer is this: what are we going to do about it? Are we going to be the people who stand up and say something when we see injustice happening? Are we going to be the ones who create the safe spaces that so many people desperately need? Or are we going to be like those people in Grace Community Church who sat in those pews, watched me suffer in silence, and did absolutely nothing? I'm challenging you right now. Think about a time when you witnessed someone being treated unfairly and you stayed silent. Think about a moment when you had the opportunity to make a difference and you chose comfort instead. We all have those moments. I'm not here to judge you for them, but I am here to ask you to do better next time. Because there will be a next time. There always is. If you've made it this far, thank you. Seriously, thank you for listening to my story, for caring enough to stick around until the end. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the follow-up to this video where I'm going to share what happened when I confronted the church board directly. Trust me, you don't want to miss what they said. And please share this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, someone who might be going through their own version of this pain, someone who needs to know they're not alone. Leave a comment telling me, what would you have done if you were in that church that Sunday morning? Would you have stayed silent, or would you have sat next to me in that empty pew? Your answer matters more than you know. This conversation doesn't end here, it's just beginning. And together, maybe we can create a world where nobody has to experience what I went through, where love is actually celebrated instead of condemned, where churches practice what they preach about acceptance and compassion. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And remember, your voice matters, your story matters, and you matter. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise.